One of the reasons why Ibrahim Traoré is so popular is because he formed an independent alliance called the AES, founded with the express mission of freeing Africa from neo-colonial control. Of course, you have Burkina Faso, led by Ibrahim Traoré, known for its wealth in gold. Then there's Niger, led by President Gianni, known for its vast uranium deposits. And then you have Mali, with President Guaita, also known for its gold deposits. This alliance allows each individual nation to amplify its influence and the revolutionary message of economic sovereignty. So in the last few days, rumors have been spreading of a fourth country whose president wants in on this AES action. And for those who haven't guessed already, that country is Chad and President Mahat Diéby. In this video, we're going to try and figure out if this is a good addition or not for the AES, and does Diéby have the chops to be a member of the AES in the first place? If you like the sound of that, stay tuned. For those of you that don't know, my name is TJ. I am Nigerian and British mixed. And on this channel, we talk about African geopolitics. Now, the reason I'm covering this story about AES expansion is because I think this is highly significant, particularly for the subject that I talk about all the time, which is the mental revolution that is happening in the minds of Africans all over the continent, whether it be South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, it doesn't matter. The people are beginning to reject any leader that seems to be friendly or continuing the idea of having business relations with these ex-colonial powers. Personally, I think this is very understandable because there has been decades and centuries of continual exploitation. And just because colonialism in its technical form is supposedly over, it doesn't mean that neo-colonialism is not alive and well, but just in another format. So let's take a look at the current situation of Chad. We're trying to go past any rumors and try and figure out exactly what's happening. So I like to use AI to do the searching of the information for me. I like to use platforms that can retrieve multiple sources so that I can also verify where this information is coming from. For this segment, I'm using GenSpark, and I asked GenSpark the question, has Chad joined the AES alliance of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso? This is the response.
According to multiple sources from May 23, 2025, Chad has formally submitted an application to join the AES alliance. Official interest. On May 20, 2025, Chad's presidential advisor Ali Abdulrahman Hagar expressed strong interest in joining the alliance, stating to Sputnik Africa, "The populations that live across Chad, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, this is a socio-political, socio-historical reality. What happens within the AES countries concerns us in more ways than one." Sputnik Africa. Earlier in May 2025, a Chadian government spokesperson publicly voiced support for joining the alliance, advocating for its expansion beyond the current 3 member states. If Chad's application is accepted, it would represent a significant expansion of the AES alliance and further strengthen this new regional bloc in Africa. The addition would increase the alliance's geographic footprint, population, and resource base considerably. As of today, May 25, 2025, Chad has formally applied to join but has not yet been officially admitted as a member of the AES alliance. The application is presumably under consideration by the current AES member states.
So this is the AES as it currently stands. You can see Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger here. And this is what it would look like if Chad joins. And this is a significant landmass increase, a significant population increase. I think it's notable to say that all of these countries are ex-French colonies. It's all very well Chad putting in the application, but what I wanted to know was, what is this leader like? Does he have the same ideology, the same anti-colonial sentiment that the guys in the AES have? Because we don't want someone coming in there that is a puppet or a secret puppet of the West, creating chaos from within, right? So again, I turn to GenSpark. Has the president of Chad displayed the same anti-colonial sentiment as Ibrahim Traoré and the AES in general? Are there any points of disagreement or situations that he is a puppet leader for Western interests?
Unlike Ibrahim Traoré, who came to power with a strong anti-colonial platform from the beginning, Mahamat Déby has undergone a more gradual shift toward anti-colonial positions. 1. Initial Western alignment. When Déby first took power in 2021 following his father's death, he maintained Chad's traditional alliance with France and Western powers. He was initially viewed as continuing his father's pro-Western stance. 2. Growing assertiveness. Since 2023, Déby has increasingly adopted more anti-colonial rhetoric, culminating in the termination of the defense agreement with France in November 2024, declaring it obsolete and no longer serving Chad's needs. Déby pursues a multi-partnership approach that diversifies Chad's international relationships without completely breaking with the West. As described by analysts, the Chadian president wants to prevent his country from openly aligning itself with Russia or China against the geopolitical interests of the West. ES have made a more decisive ideological break with the West, explicitly framing their actions in anti-colonial and anti-imperialist terms from the beginning. His anti-colonial positioning appears more calculated and responsive to domestic pressure. According to BBC reporting, Déby's positions were partly intended to respond to growing popular anti-French sentiment and partly to seize the opportunity to diversify international partnerships. Traoré/AES, anti-colonialism is central to their political identity and narrative from the outset of their respective regimes.
I think this point here is so key. I believe the Chad president is seeing that the writing is on the wall. If you don't start aligning yourself with what the AES stands for, your people will just revolt against you. I made a video last week about the Ivory Coast and the coup that may or may not be happening. And I came to the conclusion that more than likely there was no coup attempt. But it doesn't matter whether the coup happened or not. What matters was that the whole of Africa was rooting for the coup to happen. Everyone online was celebrating the idea that a coup would happen and they would oust a perceived puppet of the West in the leader of the current president of Ivory Coast. If the Chadian president wants to stay in charge and he doesn't want to have a revolution on his hands, he's going to have to toe that line. And then you add in the fact that these countries have all multiplied their GDP in a significant way since rejecting the neo-colonial influences. It appears that it's good for business. So I get to please the people and increase my GDP. I'll be a hero. It won't matter whether I have elections or not. It won't matter whether I have 10 wives or one, because I will be the one to usher in a new era of sovereignty, freedom, and prosperity for the people. So it seems that the application for Chad to join the AES is under consideration right now. And so they should take their time before just admitting anybody. But I think there's a couple additional observations to be made about this alliance. Chad joining the AES will increase the pressure for every country in ECOWAS to have friendly relations with its borders, right? Like I mentioned earlier, these are all French-speaking countries. And all of these leaders in the AES are pretty young, with one exception. So right here, we have the president of Mali. He's 41 years old. You got Ibrahim Traoré. He's 37. Niger, okay, we got a 60-year-old in charge there. But then you got Chad, and that president there is 40 years old. Now, if we go back to the map, you've got a bunch of French-speaking countries. You've got all young presidents, more or less. Then you've got Cameroon over here, and you've got Senegal over here. Cameroon, their president currently is 91 years old. There is already rumblings and rumors that people are trying to take him out right now. There's also the accusation that he is friendly to the French and not for the people. Say what you like, someone that's 91 is likely not to be president for much longer, which means Cameroon, situated right here, would have to find new leadership. Now, how much of a stretch do you think it would be for Cameroon to join the AES? They're French-speaking countries. The likelihood is that a young leader will take over and they're going to seek to have good diplomatic relationships with the biggest economic powers in the region. Now Chad has added themselves to the AES. That may very well be the AES rather than ECOWAS. I know Nigeria is a big deal and Nigeria borders Cameroon, but definitely that will have to be taken into consideration. Now, the other president that's interesting is Ibrahim Traoré of Senegal, who is 45 years old. Cameroon is on this side of the AES, Senegal is on this side of the map. Look at that engulfment. Again, Senegal, French speaking, in his 40s. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, about to get a new president. What's the chances that the Cameroon president will be in his 40s, will have the same ideology as the Sahel states? All of these countries are French speaking. Now look at the power and influence. Nigeria and Ghana are the main significant countries in ECOWAS. But you got Senegal, Ivory Coast, Benin, Togo, and Guinea. All of those countries are French speaking. What's stopping Guinea over here, Ivory Coast over here, Benin and Togo actually breaking up the landmass? Ivory Coast president, as seen by the response to the coup, they already want him gone. So the likelihood is that the next Ivory Coast president will also be in favor of the AES. Ghana, we saw them earlier in the year. You had Ibrahim Traoré go to the Ghanaian president's inauguration, and you had the Ghanaian president also going over to Burkina Faso, and they created trade deals and all sorts. I also made a video where I highlighted that. So what I'm suggesting here, ladies and gentlemen, is that there is a revolution happening in West Africa. And over the next 10 years, maybe less, I'm predicting all of this region will be an AES state. This, my friends, is not a stretch of the imagination at all. And the beauty of the AES state is that they have one passport. They have de-emphasized the colonial borders between African countries, which means you can trade freely, more economic power. It means that when the US, the French, the Russians, the Chinese want to do any business, you have to negotiate in alignment with the entire bloc. It means when there's terrorist issues or military issues, they can back each other up. This is independence unfolding right in front of our eyes right now. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's happening step by step. And I've just played you through the scenario where this could happen. Now, once AES becomes a state like we're seeing, what's stopping the rest of Africa picking up this same mentality? After all, the people want it. The rhetoric is there. People are only going to vote in presidents that have this same rhetoric. The youth are only going to support presidents that have this same rhetoric. There is a lot of ill will amongst the everyday man against ex-colonial controllers. Add that to the exploding demographics of Africa, and the West is going to have to contend with a serious shift in the way they have to approach business with Africa. So I went on and asked, what are the economic implications if Chad joins the AES? Who will benefit and who will lose out? Let's see what it says.
Economic implications of Chad joining the AES alliance: access to a unified economic bloc. 1. Chad would gain membership in an emerging economic confederation with plans for a common market, monetary union, and shared development bank. The AES has already established initiatives like a regional development bank, BCIDES, and is working toward creating a resource-backed currency.
Where have we heard that before? A little guy named Colonel Gaddafi. This is a huge problem for the West. If they're willing to take out Gaddafi for his resource-backed currency idea, man, I even forgot about the currency angle. Imagine the whole of that region just has one currency, all resource-based. And anyone that wants to come and do business has to interact in that currency. What kind of power will that bring? It's exciting me. I'm excited about this.
Enhanced resource management leverage. Chad's significant oil reserves would enhance the collective resource power of the AES. Chad produced approximately 94,000 barrels per day in 2021, providing substantial export revenues. 2. Mining sector enhancement. Joining AES would give Chad bargaining power in renegotiating extractive industry contracts, following the model used by other AES members with Western and Chinese companies.
Oh yeah, Chad's got oil. They're not coming in like beggars who don't have anything to add. So now you're talking about uranium, gold, and oil. The AES have already demonstrated that all they want to do when it comes to resources is refine everything themselves. When it comes to the gold and uranium in the rest of the AES region, even in agriculture, they are doing everything they can to do value add, to do refinement, so that they're not just selling the raw materials. They're becoming a manufacturing state. And when you become a manufacturing state, you boost all kinds of things throughout your economy, and everyone has to come and play with you. Remember, that means you're taking a significant chunk of that resource off the raw market where other people can benefit from that value add refinement step. So then it becomes scarce elsewhere, and then you're entering the market with refined products. The market economics are great for that situation. Of course, my mind goes immediately to what Dangote has done in Nigeria, asking, can they do their own refinery? Imagine Chad providing oil throughout the AES region.
Diplomatic and military support. The alliance would provide Chad with backing in its pursuit of sovereignty and protection against external pressures, particularly from France and other Western powers. 2. AES is developing a joint 5,000-strong military force to fight terrorism and secure the region, which would help Chad address its security concerns along its borders with Libya and Sudan.
AES is developing a joint 5,000-strong military. This is again another sign of de-emphasizing the colonial borders. We've got a joint military, all loyal to the same ideology of anti-colonialism and anti-neocolonialism. This is very powerful stuff.
Infrastructure development. The AES Confederation plans joint infrastructure programs in energy, transportation, and communications, which could benefit Chad's underdeveloped infrastructure. Chad and its Sahelian neighbors can achieve great things together: build roads, transport oil, create free trade zones. 2 potential benefits for AES. Strategic expansion. Chad's addition would significantly expand AES's geographic footprint and resource base, making it an even more substantial regional bloc, as noted in analysis. The inclusion of Chad would represent a major leap forward in the realization of a Pan-African bloc that is both ideologically united. Chad's membership would strengthen AES's position vis-à-vis ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States, and increase its bargaining power with global powers, who could lose out: France and Western powers. France would lose its last major military foothold and influence in the Sahel region. Chad has historically been France's most reliable partner in the region. French companies like TotalEnergies, which has major investments in Chad's oil sector, could face contract renegotiations or restrictions. Western counter-terrorism strategy would be further undermined, with another country pivoting away from Western security frameworks. With Chad joining AES, the legitimacy and cohesion of ECOWAS would be further challenged, potentially encouraging other members to consider leaving. This division threatens ECOWAS's founding principles and poses security and economic risks. China's current interests. China might face challenges in Chad similar to what it's experiencing in other AES countries. As the Africa File reports, the AES juntas have expanded their pro-sovereignty pressure campaign beyond Western mining companies and attacked China. And 2 Chinese oil executives were recently expelled from Niger, and Mali has summoned the Chinese ambassador over mining operations, suggesting China-Chad relations could face similar pressure. International organizations. The IMF and World Bank, which have lending programs in Chad, could see their influence diminished as the AES pursues alternative financing options.
Everybody wants this. Everybody wants the IMF and the World Bank out of Africa right now. So this is a significant point to make here on who would lose out. And this again is the financial arm. You've got the military arm, you've got the financial arm, and you've got the economic arm of the Western powers with their fingers in the pockets of Africans, right? But now this is the banking arm. Not only will they have their own banking state combined, but they will reject the predatory lending practices that the IMF puts on these countries.
Economic risk factors for Chad. Reduced international aid. AES countries face a significant drop in Western development aid. According to Eurasia Review, members of AES are projected to face an estimated aid gap of USD 350 million by 2025.
Nobody said it would be easy. And one of the things that you're banking on when you make a transition is that, okay, what are you going to lose out on and what are you going to gain? So if Chad loses aid, then hopefully they're going to make much more than that in what they make from their economic rise as a result of joining the AES. On top of that, if they're able to do the refining, if they're able to sell without France's influence or France's first refusal or the CFA franc, then they will likely recoup that number just from their new financial status. No African country wants to stay using the CFA franc anymore. It's just way too predatory. You have to keep a percentage of your money in France. Nobody wants that. So this is the trade-off you make for that kind of decision.
Trade disruption. As a landlocked country, Chad depends on trade routes through neighboring countries. Joining AES could complicate trade relationships with non-AES neighbors, too, according to CIS analysis. For the AES countries, which are all landlocked, this means relying on bilateral cooperation with certain ECOWAS member countries. Ghana and Togo appear to be interested in strengthening their cooperation with the AES.
If we look at this map and the situation that I'm proposing, that ECOWAS is going to take over this region, that shouldn't be a consideration much longer. You've got access to Burkina Faso through Ghana and potentially the Ivory Coast after the current Ivory Coast regime goes away, which it inevitably will in short order. There's an election in October, and I predict that unless there is skullduggery happening, the same president will not be re-elected. But we'll have to wait and see about that. Then you've got Senegal, Mali over here, that's access to land. Then we've got Cameroon and Chad over here, that's access to land. Not to mention Togo and Benin are also French speaking. And if they start to get influence along with their neighbors, Ghana, then you've got access for Niger as well. Now, I know Benin is close with Nigeria, but the overall message I'm making is that as the influence grows, as this group starts to add members to its state, this landlocked issue will go away in short order.
Russia stands to gain significantly from Chad joining AES, expanding its influence in the resource-rich Sahel. The Understanding War report notes, Russia has supplanted the West in Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger and formed a pro-Russian economic, military and political bloc in the AES.
America definitely doesn't want to see that. This is Russia's influence increasing in the place where everybody needs resources. You could argue that this will be an extension of what's going on with Russia-Ukraine right now. The problem they have, though, is that they can't run the same propaganda campaign that will work in the eyes of the people of Africa. So you can't convince them that they need to oust Russia because they're seeing all the benefit happening from their country as Russia's are partnering with them. So if Chad is accepted, when is this likely to happen? Let's take a look.
Based on the historical timeline of the AES formation and the current geopolitical context, a formal decision on Chad's membership application could reasonably be expected by the end of 2025, with preliminary agreements possibly emerging as early as August-September 2025. The most likely scenario is that Chad's membership will be officially accepted at a summit of AES heads of state in late 2025, followed by a ratification process extending into early 2026, when Chad would become a fully integrated member of the alliance. However, given the strategic importance of this expansion to the AES and the current momentum, the process could potentially be expedited, especially if current geopolitical tensions in the region intensify.
So there we have it. It's probably going to happen this year if it happens. And I thought they were going to say because of the importance, it's going to take longer, but they're saying here that it's likely to take less time because they really want to get this done. This means that more pressure will be applied to ECOWAS and the region faster. And I, for one, am here for it. Of course, if I get any updates, I will let you know. I would love to know what you think about this. Do you think Chad would be a worthy member of AES? Is there something I don't know about the leadership and the way Chad conducts itself that would rule it out for someone you support in joining the AES? I'm sure you got lots of opinions. Please put it in the comments so I can also be informed. But if you don't have anything to say at all, would it be too much for me to ask you to write the words AES expansion in the comments section? It lets me know that you like the content, you watched to the end, and you want me to keep going on the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.